The sun wasn't right. Hanging low over the frozen lake, it was a black disk, a void in the sky. It cast no light, only a cold, oppressive darkness. The air itself felt heavy, charged with an unseen energy. It pressed down on me, stealing my breath. Across the frozen surface of the lake, figures moved. Black-clad figures, their faces obscured by hoods. They moved with purpose, gathering around a makeshift altar of ice and stone, their chanting, low and rhythmic, carried on the wind, a chilling counterpoint to the unnatural silence of the woods. I stood at the window, watching them, a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. I had come to this remote cabin for peace, for solitude. Instead, I had found this gathering, this blasphemy. They called themselves the Children of the Black Sun, a name that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Their leader, a woman named Jessica, had eyes that burned with an unsettling intensity, as if she could see right through you, piercing your very soul. Her voice when she spoke was like velvet over steel, commanding, absolute. It was a voice that brooked no argument, that demanded obedience and instilled both fear and respect in equal measure. They believed that the Black Sun was a sign, a harbinger of a new age, an age of darkness and rebirth. To them, it was a symbol of power and transformation, a beacon guiding them towards a destiny only they could comprehend. I had tried to avoid them, to keep my distance, but in a place as small and isolated as this, it was nearly impossible. Their presence was a constant, an inescapable shadow that loomed over the village. This was a small community, and their presence was impossible to ignore. They were woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, their influence seeping into every corner of our existence. They were everywhere, their eyes following me, their whispers reaching me even in the supposed safety of my own cabin. It was as if they were always watching, always waiting, their intentions a mystery that gnawed at my peace of mind. "They mean you no harm," Natalie had said, her voice soothing, reassuring. She was the only one who seemed to believe in their innocence, the only one who saw them as anything other than a threat. Natalie, the owner of the cabin, the only person in this godforsaken place who seemed to see them as anything other than terrifying. She had a way of making the darkness seem less oppressive, her optimism a small light in the encroaching gloom. "They're just trying to find their way, like the rest of us," she would say. Her words a balm to my frayed nerves, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly benign intentions. But I had seen their rituals, witnessed the fervor in their eyes, the unsettling devotion in their chanting. It was a fervor that bordered on fanaticism, a devotion that seemed to consume them entirely, leaving no room for doubt or dissent. And I knew deep down that they were not like the rest of us. There was a darkness in them, a sense of purpose that set them apart, that made them both fascinating and terrifying. They were a mystery I couldn't unravel, a puzzle I couldn't solve, and that made them all the more dangerous. The stew simmered on the stove, filling the small kitchen with the aroma of herbs and smoke. Outside, the black sun continued its slow descent, casting long, distorted shadows across the snow. Natalie hummed softly to herself as she worked, her movements calm, unhurried, as if the strange darkness beyond the window didn't exist. "You worry too much," she said, placing a steaming bowl in front of me. "Eat, it will warm you." Her words were meant to be comforting, but they did little to ease the unease that gnawed at me. The food stuck in my throat, the silence broken only by the clinking of our spoons and the ever-present distant chanting of the Children of the Black Sun. The lake had a history, a dark one. It was a place where the line between reality and myth blurred, where the whispers of the past seemed to linger in the air, carried by the cold wind that swept across its frozen surface. Natalie had told me stories, hushed whispers of strange occurrences, of eerie lights that danced on the ice at night, and shadows that moved just beyond the edge of vision. She spoke of the lake as if it were a living entity, a sentient being with its own desires and hungers. People vanishing without a trace, their footsteps disappearing into the snow, leaving no sign of struggle or departure. It was as if the lake itself had swallowed them whole, pulling them into its icy embrace, their fates forever bound to the icy depths, lost to the world above. The water, dark and cold, seemed to hold secrets that no one could ever uncover, secrets that were better left undisturbed. The locals spoke of the lake with a mixture of fear and reverence, their voices hushed as if afraid to draw its attention. They believed the lake had a will of its own, a malevolent force that demanded respect and offerings, as if it were a living thing, something to be feared, appeased. They left tokens at its edge, small sacrifices to keep its hunger at bay, hoping to avoid its wrath. The lake takes what it wants, Natalie had said, her voice barely a whisper. It's always hungry. Her words echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of the power that lay beneath the ice. Now, as I watched the children of the Black Sun gathered on its frozen surface, their figures stark against the white expanse, I felt a deep sense of unease. Their presence seemed to awaken something in the lake, a stirring beneath the ice, their chanting echoing across the snow-covered expanse, a haunting melody that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the lake. It was as if they were calling to it, summoning its ancient power. I couldn't help but think that the lake had found a new offering. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, a primal fear that had nothing to do with the cold. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, a primal fear that had nothing to do with the cold. It was a fear of the unknown, of the unseen forces that seemed to govern this place. I had to get out of here, had to escape the grip of the lake and the dark secrets it held. The fear was overwhelming, a suffocating presence that urged me to flee. I had to get out of here, had to put as much distance between myself and this place as possible. The snow crunched beneath my feet as I ran, each step taking me further from the lake and its haunting whispers. Had to put as much distance between myself and this place as possible. The road ahead was long and treacherous, but it was the only way to escape the lake's grasp. I could only hope that I would never hear its whispers again. The decision to leave came slowly, a seed of doubt planted in the fertile ground of my fear. It wasn't a sudden realization, but a gradual awakening, like the slow thaw of ice in the early spring. Each day the feeling grew stronger, more insistent, whispering to me in the quiet moments of the night. It grew with each passing hour, fueled by the unsettling presence of the children of the Black Sun. Their eyes always watching, their whispers like the rustling of dead leaves. The village itself seemed to conspire against me, its silence heavy and oppressive, as if it held secrets too terrible to speak aloud. By the whispers of the lake's dark history, tales of disappearances and ancient curses that seemed too fantastical to be true, yet too persistent to ignore. The lake was a mirror of my own fears, its surface calm and still, hiding depths that I dared not explore by the growing certainty that something was deeply, terribly wrong. The cabin, once a refuge, now felt like a prison, its walls closing in on me. The sky, once a canvas of stars, now seemed to brood with dark clouds, as if reflecting the turmoil within me. I packed my bags, my movements hurried, furtive. Each item I placed in my bag felt like a small act of rebellion, a step towards freedom. The sound of the zipper closing was like a final punctuation mark on a chapter I was desperate to end. I didn't want to alert Natalie, didn't want to face her questions, her reassurances. She would try to convince me to stay, to face my fears, but I knew that staying meant surrendering to the darkness. I couldn't bear the thought of dragging her into the abyss with me. I knew that if I stayed, I would be drawn into the darkness that clung to this place, like a shadow that never left. The forest, once a place of beauty, now seemed to whisper threats, its trees like silent sentinels watching my every move. Swallowed whole by the lake and its secrets. The water, dark and foreboding, seemed to call to me, promising answers but at a terrible cost. I could almost hear the voices of those who had vanished, their cries echoing in the stillness. The Black Sun hung low in the sky, a malevolent eye watching my every move. It was as if the universe itself was aware of my intentions, casting a judgmental gaze upon me. The setting sun painted the snow in hues of red and orange, like a warning of the danger that lay ahead. It felt like a presence now, a sentient being, its gaze heavy and unrelenting. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every gust of wind carried a whisper of doom. I could feel the weight of its attention, a cold, calculating force that sought to break my resolve. And I could feel its gaze on me, cold and calculating. It was a battle of wills, a test of my determination to escape. As I looked over my shoulder one last time, I knew that leaving was my only chance at survival, my only hope. to escape the darkness that threatened to consume me. Leaving so soon? Jessica stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the unnatural darkness beyond. Her voice was soft, almost regretful, but her eyes held a glint of something cold and sharp, like shards of ice. "I have to," I said, my voice barely a whisper. I tried to step around her, but she moved to block my path, her body a wall of unwavering certainty. "You don't understand," she said, her voice low, hypnotic. "The Black Sun, it's a beginning, not an end. It offers us a chance to be reborn, to shed our old selves and embrace something new, something more." Her words were seductive, tempting, but I had seen the darkness in her eyes, the fanaticism that burned there. I knew that her path was not one I could follow. I pushed past her, my fear giving way to a desperate need to escape. I ran, my breath catching in my throat, the sound of my own footsteps loud in the unnatural silence of the woods. Behind me I could hear Jessica's voice calling my name, pleading with me to return, but I didn't look back, didn't dare to break my stride. I could feel the Black Sun's gaze on my back, a tangible weight that seemed to pull me back, to hold me captive. The trees whipped past in a blur, the frozen ground crunching under my feet. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away from this place, from the lake and its secrets, from the children of the Black Sun and their unsettling devotion. The woods opened up, and I stumbled out onto the road, the asphalt a ribbon of black against the white expanse of snow. I didn't know how long I had been running, how far I had come, but I didn't stop, not until I reached my car, a welcome sight in the gathering darkness. As I drove away, the Black Sun still hanging low in the sky, I could feel its gaze following me. A silent promise, a threat left unspoken. I knew that I would never be free of this place, that its darkness would follow me, a shadow lurking at the edge of my vision. The radio crackled to life, the newscaster's voice tense, urgent. "Reports are coming in of strange occurrences across the globe. Unusual solar activity, mass blackouts, widespread panic. Authorities are urging calm." I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my heart pounding against my ribs. The world was changing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow responsible, that my escape had unleashed something terrible upon the world. The Black Sun, once confined to the remote lake, was now a global phenomenon, its darkness spreading across the world like a stain. And, as I drove into the unknown, I couldn't help but wonder what awaited me at the end of the road.